Hello, my name is Gene Bannister, and I'm here this week to present a presentation on histories of scale, and we're going to be looking at microhistory today. Microhistory became popular in Italy in the 1970s, with Giovanni Levi being one of the pioneers of that particular approach. Although the term itself dates back to 1959 when George R. Stewart, an American historian, published a work on the final days of the Battle of Gettysburg. He used that word, microhistory, Stewart did in his work. Now, Braudel was very critical of the concept because it focused on events, but some of the notable uh, historians of the microhistory are Clifford Getz and E.P. Thompson. Now, the readings that we had to cover this week included James Beattie and Eugene Anderson's Ecology from the Oxford World History of Empire, 2021, and Peter Jones's Microhistory and the Workhouse Experience in Late 19th Century London. And that was from an article in the 2022 issue of Journal of Social History. As I began searching for more information on 19th century British workhouses, I found this image along with plenty of others that not only were generic photographs of the workhouse themselves, many of them which were based on the same architectural plans that were used for prisons, but also on individuals like these, and one of those individuals was the focus of Dr. Jones's study. Now, Jones states that the purpose of his study is an effort to understand the nature and the legacy of poverty on 19th century poor. And he wished to do this to a better understanding of the experiences of a single individual, again, that microhistory. And in this study, that single individual was Frank. Now, Jones's approach relies heavily on letters of complaint to the local government board between 1884 and 1885 from Frank, while synthesizing with those sources other archival sources such as census records and newspaper advertisements. And Jones accepts as microhistory historians, we can't just accept these letters uncritically. We can, through a closer reading, understand what and why letters like these were written, and it's possible to get a better understanding and better insight into the effects of workhouse life on the individual. Now, as Dr. Davis stated, and as we all know from our readings, microhistory relies heavily on archival sources, and these types of sources come directly from these kinds of narratives come directly from those types of sources. Microhistory also approaches what we've been told is called from the bottom up, where you're focusing on a particular group that may have been marginalized or silenced completely. And microhistory is an approach that works best when a historian can use that method to connect to a larger field. Like it may be, for instance, to study and learn more about the day-to-day lives of merchant couple living in the early days of American settlers in California through their correspondence or business records, and try to recreate kind of a narrative there and let those sources speak. However, beyond those details, this type of microhistory could enable, and if the writer connects it, you could learn not only about who the merchants were and what their experiences were, but what kind of role the merchants played in the development of California, or what their experiences can inform about the region's early settlers. Connections between the individual person or event makes the larger field more valuable. Now, Dr. Jones, a little background information on him. This is who he is and what his field of interest are. Peter Jones was a social, and he still is, a social and environmental historian at the University of Glasgow. And the story of Frank and the workhouse grew out of some sources he assembled as part of an arts and humanities research grant project from 2018, where he worked as a research associate. Dr. Jones has previously worked on studies of other grant projects such as histories of fisheries management, British poverty in the 18th and 19th centuries, and 19th century popular protest in England. Now, some other important information here to understand is, although microhistory, Jones kind of describes it as not just it's not so much a historiographical approach as an intention, a commitment to reduce the scale of historic inquiry, rather than an approach which offers a specific methodology. And as we heard from Dr. Davis, not everybody really agrees with that, but that's what Jones is saying. Now, in his examination of the life of Frank Berg, Jones employs not only letters but census records, political records, newspaper mentions of his life, and show business, showing a utilization of different methodologies to present this in another way of looking at the overall history of the workhouse experience. And despite what Jones says is a lack of a specific methodological approach, most would describe its function as an attempt to understand the lives of everyday people and their everyday experiences. But again, it's okay to understand that, but in order to make that really effective, we have to connect it to the larger field. Now, how does this reading connect to the Eugene Anderson and James Beatty? And when these were chosen by Dr. Davis for very specific reasons. They give us two extremes. We can see the two polar opposites of microhistory and microhistory in effect, and how the historians utilize those methods to kind of gain some understanding of their fields. And that's how they connect. Now, when we look at how we can think about this in relation to historiography, we got to look at some benefits. And what are the benefits to utilizing either a micro or a macro approach to history? Are these two methods that can be woven together, as Dr. Davis suggested? Can a historian weave a macro approach and a micro approach in the same study? Some believe you can, some believe you can't. I guess it would depend on the scope and the field and the historian, of course. But what is Dr. Jones trying to highlight, though, in this particular type of study? And what voice is he choosing to amplify, and why did he choose that particular voice? And are there other voices that he ignores in this study? Microhistory is an interesting approach, and it's one that some people are familiar with, as opposed to others. But thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully this will facilitate some sort of discussion about our reading. Thank you.